WebEx update to join the Tennessee system. So I've been in Never Land, but so I apologize. But the chairman ought to acknowledge when he messes up. So I had a mess up this morning, but we're ready to go. So Judy, how are we member-wise?
We have everyone present. Commissioner Hanson is calling in on the phone. And everyone is present in one form or another, and we are ready to go.
Okay, and again, I apologize to you all. I try to be punctual, but we'll catch up as we go. So welcome to the August 26, 2020 meeting of the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. The meetings be held virtually via web conference. This meeting includes a public dialogue option that's available on the Charter Commission's website. Chanel, would you please reference circumstances behind the virtual meeting and the relevant TCA sections?
Thank you, Tom, and good morning. So due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and concerns related to the budget issues that are going on that stem from the pandemic, the Commission has decided that it is necessary to hold this meeting virtually. And this is pursuant to TCA 844-108. This meeting was noticed and a dial-in information was provided to the public so they can listen in via the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Chanel. As a reminder, all votes of the Commission are conducted via taking a roll call. And please identify yourself prior to speaking, making a motion, or voting. So with that, Judy, would you please call the roll?
I will, and we are going to go in the same order as we did at the last meeting. So starting with Commissioner Richards.
Present.
Commissioner Tucker.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Sisnet. Commissioner Patterson.
Here.
Commissioner Levine.
Here.
Commissioner Hanson.
Present.
Chairman Griscom.
Here.
Everyone is present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. All of y'all have had access to the agenda for today. Does anyone have any comments to make regarding the agenda before we proceed? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Commissioner Sisnet, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Judy, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker. Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Sisnet.
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Levine.
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson.
Aye.
Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
We have 8 of 8 votes. The agenda is unanimously approved.
Thank you. The minutes of our meeting on July 30, 2020 have been provided. Does anyone have any edits, corrections to make regarding the prior minutes before we proceed?
Chairman, it is the minutes from the August 12th, 2020 meeting.
Thank you. My script was wrong, so I read my script. So thank you for the correction, Judy. I appreciate it. Is there a motion to approve?
This is Commissioner Sisnet, so moved.
Levine, second.
Who is that, please?
Levine, second.
Thank you, Alan. Any discussion? So I have now made sure everybody on the tape knows that the commission chairman needs a script so he can stay on it. And even with that, I messed up. So Judy, would you now take the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Sisnet.
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine.
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson.
Aye.
Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
8 of 8, we have unanimously approved the minutes of the August 12th meeting.
Thank you. We're now, Judy, to the point of determining whether we have anybody for public comment. So has anybody reserved time for public comment with us?
Mr. Chairman, there was no reservation to speak for public comment.
Thank you. So with that, we'll move on to our regular agenda. The next agenda item is a report from Chris Richards, who is the chair of the Committee of the Whole that led the search and hiring function that culminated in Tess Stovall being with us today. Chris, would you please update the commission on the status of hiring the executive director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since our last meeting, I've consulted with the Attorney General's office, talked with Tess, talked with Sarah Morrison, her current boss, Executive Director of the State Board, and other individuals at the Department of Education to finalize the hiring process. We've provided an offer letter to Tess, which she has signed, and it is contingent upon a successful TBI background check. Now, our search firm did a background check, but in the process of working through this appropriate procedure to complete the hiring, I was informed by the HR group that she must complete a TBI background check, so I'm in the process of trying to get that requested. And her offer letter, which has been signed, is contingent on that successful completion. To ensure a smooth transition from her duties at the State Board of Education to her role at the Commission, her start date is going to be September 28th. But I think our chairman has worked out some flexibility, and for instance, we're honored to have Tess with us today, and we put her right to work with a part of the program. So welcome, Tess. As a reminder, at our last meeting on August 12th, the Committee of the Whole selected Tess as the Executive Director of the Commission and delegated the hiring details to me. Having completed a significant part of that work, today it is appropriate to advance a motion for the committee itself to ratify the action of the Committee of the Whole and formally vote to hire Tess as the Executive Director. And I would like to make that motion.
Thank you.
Second. This is Wendy. I would second.
Thank you, Commissioner Tucker. I've got one point of discussion. As Commissioner Richards mentioned, Tess is already helping and assist with the work that we're doing as she finishes her role with the State Board of Education. As a matter of fact, after she presents to us today, she will be back in her current position with the State Board as they're going through some hearings, both today and then on September 2nd that we'll talk about more in just a little bit. So we've got the benefit of Tess working with us and helping us sort out things like budget, office space, things of that nature as she finishes her work with the State Board. So I just want to publicly acknowledge and share with commissioners that while the start date is September 28th, we are going to be benefiting from Tess's knowledge and work with us during that period of time. So with that, any other comments before we vote? You can call the roll, please.
Yes. Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
Was that an aye? I didn't hear that.
Yes. Aye. Can you hear me?
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Sisnet.
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine.
Aye.
Hanson.
Aye.
Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
8 of 8, we've unanimously ratified the appointment of Tess Stovall as Executive Director of the Commission.
Thank you all. And let me take this opportunity once more to express to Commissioner Richards our appreciation, my appreciation for the excellent work you did in getting us to this point. I know it was challenging when we first looked at it, but with everybody's willingness and commitment and time that you provided to get this done, we hit the deadline we set. And Commissioner Richards, thank you again very much for heading this committee of the whole. I would also now like to ask Commissioner Tucker and Commissioner Sisnett, who agreed to serve as the onboarding committee for Tess Stovall, if they would like to provide some updates to the commissioners as the next steps. So let me start with Commissioner Tucker.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will say, just at first, I will say I'm feeling pretty good about Tessa's TBI background check. So I get that that has to be done as a state hurdle, but I'm not too concerned about that. I also, selfishly, as one of the people in charge of figuring out her onboarding, I'm feeling pretty good about her content knowledge. So as we said during the interview process, she built the plane and now she gets to fly it. So I have just briefly reached out to Tess and told her that I would be reaching out, and I think Commissioner Sisnett also, to schedule calls with her. And our plan is to, in my mind, there are two things we want to do on that call. One is to find out what it is she wants and needs for onboarding, what she feels like those areas are that she wants us to dig in deeper on. And two, to have her schedule a listening tour and phone calls with all of the commission members to both get to know the members and also to start developing thoughts about what the members' priorities are, so that she can work towards how that impacts her, the executive director's work. So we're really excited about that. Thought it made sense to wait until after she hears all these appeals, because she's in pretty deep with those right now. And I will pass it on to Commissioner Sisnett. He and I have not spoken because we haven't had a committee meeting about this specifically, but I wanted to pass it on to him as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Tucker. I echo all those sentiments. I have no doubt that all will go smoothly, and in terms of content knowledge and the way forward and strategy or what have you, I have no doubt that Tess will be able to move efficiently, effectively. And so look forward to our first meeting with Tess to organize all that and to figure out how we could be supportive as a board so that this could be a great start for a very outstanding opportunity.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Tucker and Commissioner Sisnett, for your agreeing to do this. And for one, I know I'm going to learn more during this onboarding just from Tess coming in and being able to have access to her knowledge. So she's the first person I met when the governor announced my appointment. And so I know how much knowledge she's got. But thank you all again for leading this. So now it's my pleasure to welcome and introduce you to Tess Stovall, the Executive Director of the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission, officially on September 28th. Tess, we're thrilled to have you as the leader of the commission. We look forward to working with you to advance the understanding of charter schools across the state, to then increase the impact of charter schools across the state, and ensure high quality impact authorizing function as part of our strategy to increase equity and opportunity for all students, and to learn how to fly the airplane you created together as your co-pilot. So Tess, with that, let me ask you to come in and share a few comments with the commissioners.
Thank you so much. And just first of all, thank you all for the opportunity to serve as your first executive director. I don't take this responsibility lightly. I know that you all have high expectations for the person coming into this role. That was clear based on the candidate pool that you all have. And I'm just so thrilled that we are all standing here today and really able to look forward into the great work of the commission. I also know that we have a lot of challenging work ahead of us. I am just really excited to get to know you all more as commissioners, as people, as Commissioner Tucker said, to really understand what drives you in this work, what your goals are for this work, so that I can best support you and build a staff that can best support the work of the commission. So I know that there are going to be challenging points ahead of us, but I also know that we're doing this work in the service of students in Tennessee, and that's of utmost importance to me. So thank you all again for this opportunity. I look forward to getting to know you through this process, and I look forward to September 28th when I'm 100% and fully with the commission.
Thank you, Tess. If individual commissioners want to say something, I'll leave you the space to do that. Or if we'd all like to collectively, since she can see us all, just give her a thumbs up and a greeting with a handshake. Great. Thank you, Tess. And again, you're welcome. And we are trying to stay and give you the time you need for these appeals today. So we're going to move on. At previous meetings, we have talked about and relied upon Tess to learn about the authorizing function of the state board. We delayed this presentation a couple of months ago just to get through what we've done now, which was the most important thing is to hire an executive director. So we've done that. So now as executive director, she's going to walk us through an authorizing presentation that discusses the state's authorized schools, the New Start appeal process, and an overview of fall priorities. And she is going to share with us the presentation that she is providing today. Is that correct, Tess? There we go. Thank you.
You're on mute.
Okay. I'm gonna make sure, can you all see that? Okay, can you see it when I advance? Okay, fabulous. So first of all, thank you all so much for this opportunity. As the chair said, we had talked about doing this presentation back earlier in March, but I think this is honestly a great time for us to be having this conversation. As the chair mentioned, the state board is in the midst of New Start appeal process right now. So a part of this presentation will be talking you all through at a high level. What does that process look like? And then also kind of what are the things that we should be thinking about as the commission moves into handling this work in the next year. I will say we are going to have a lot more time for us to dig into the appeal process going to this fall and this spring. So certainly just know that this is the first opportunity we're going to be talking about this, but certainly not the last. So for the agenda for this presentation, I do want to touch base on the operating status of the state board's current authorized schools, just to update you on what's happening on the ground. We are then going to talk about the New Start appeal process and share with you at a high level the appeals that the state board is currently considering. And then towards the tail end of my presentation, I will put the commission hat on and I'll talk a little bit about priorities for the fall. I'm really thinking about how are we going to use our time the best over the next couple of months and really setting ourselves up well for 2021. So first, let's start with the state board's authorized schools. Currently, we have 3 schools in operation. We have a high school, Bluff City High School, operated by Green Dot in Memphis. They are fully grown out at this point, so they are serving grades 9 through 12. And they are currently operating in a fully virtual setting. The second school that we have in operation is KIPP Antioch College Prep Elementary. They are in Southeast Nashville. They are currently serving grades K through 2, and they are also in a fully remote fashion as well. And then we have their feeder school, KIPP Antioch College Prep Middle, which is currently serving grades 5th and 6th, and they are also in a fully remote fashion. KIPP Nashville announced last week that they're planning to be fully remote through the first quarter. I will also note that I think our schools have done a remarkable job over the summer, really preparing for the virtual learning. So all schools are one-to-one. So all students have been provided a device. Both networks are supporting internet connectivity where they need to and providing Wi-Fi hotspots, etc. So I think that they are making the best of a very difficult situation, as we all know. We do have an additional authorized school, which is Rocketship Nashville number 3. And I did want to let you all know that over the summer, the Rocketship Nashville Governing Board decided to delay a year. They were scheduled to open in the 21-22 school year, but because of the pandemic, because of the uncertainty of this school year, they decided to focus on the schools that they have currently operating, as opposed to also trying to open a New Start school. Statutorily, operators are allowed to delay 1 year, with a notice to their authorizer. Any additional delays to their start status would have to come to the commission and be approved. So the current authorized charter schools will officially roll to the commission as of July 1, 2021. But I think it's important in terms of our work plan for us to recognize that beginning in January of 2021, there's going to be a lot of setup work and pre-work that's going to be happening before the schools officially transition. So as we're thinking about staffing and roles and responsibilities, really making sure that we are getting to the point that in the spring, we are able to do several of the required functions to fully bring on the schools in July. So I'll pause there just in case anyone has any questions about just the current operating status of our schools. Okay. So now I want to talk about the New Start appeal process. And the purpose of this presentation is, this part of the presentation is first to walk you all through the overall process and what happens both from the receipt of an appeal to the presentation of a recommendation to the state board and then the future commission, and also share with you all the appeals that the state board is currently receiving. So the New Start appeal process is something that the state board handles on an annual basis. We set our meetings and our clocks by the New Start appeal process because we are always getting New Start appeals, and the timeline is very clearly outlined in statute. Moving forward to the commission, similarly, we will want to ensure that we're setting a fall commission meeting in a timeline that we can always be hearing New Start appeals. I like to say I set my vacation calendar around New Start appeals because it's pretty much clockwork that we are getting them. Or if they've been right out. They have submitted a letter of intent to their home district. They have gone through and submitted an original application. They have been denied at the local district. They have resubmitted an amended application. They have been denied again, and then they're appealing to the state board. Now, that doesn't mean that the denial at the local level was wrong or right, but I think it's about understanding that when an applicant comes to the state board or future the commission when it comes to an appeal, we really want to make sure that they feel like their appeal process was fair and that they were heard and with regard to their appeal, even if ultimately the recommendation is to uphold the district's decision. So the right to appeal a New Start application is contained in statute. So this language around the right to appeal to the state board remains until December 31st of 2020. And then, as you all know, this will shift to the commission. It is the right to appeal to an entity to hear a New Start appeal. I also think it's important that there are often times that individual operators or applicants decide not to appeal. I think this is a great example this year where we had two sponsors decide not to appeal, and we understand that that's a choice. And certainly we understand people who want to appeal that decision and those who would not like to appeal the decision. So this slide here gives you a high-level overview of the appeal process. This will look similar to what the appeal process will look like when we take it up from a commission standpoint. This process is really driven by what is in state law around appeals and also what is in the commission's rules and policies around appeals. And we're going to talk through these aspects of the appeal process in more depth. But what I want to impart upon you in this slide is that the staff notifies the state board and in the future the commission when an appeal is received. Then the three buckets in the middle the work of the review committee, the public hearing, and the staff review of the record is what staff members will be doing between receiving the appeal and presenting the recommendation to the state board and then the future the commission. Commissioners are welcome to engage and listen in, for example, in the public hearings, dig into the record once the record is provided to you. But I do want to make sure that you know that that is the reason that you hire staff, and really thinking about the roles and responsibilities to conduct all of the due diligence when it comes to an appeal, and then taking all of the information that we receive and putting it into a recommendation for you all to consider. So when an appeal is received, this information is outlined in current state board rule. It is also contained in the commission's rules. What do we get when we receive a notice of appeal? And so from a sponsor being the person who is trying to open a charter school, we are receiving both the original and the amended application. We are receiving a timeline of where, when did the local Board of Education vote and consider these applications. We are receiving a brief statement from the sponsor. In this statement, they are saying, why do they think the denial of their application was contrary to the best interests, and therefore their application should be approved. In the state board statute, applicants are allowed to do some corrections upon appeal to the state board. I will note that this particular part is not included in the commission's statutory charge. So we will only be looking at the amended application that an applicant submitted to their district. And then we're also looking for copies of communication that the district sent to the sponsor. All authorizers are required to put in writing why they denied the application. And so we are looking for that information as well. All of this information that we are getting from the sponsor is going to be a part of the record that you would receive when considering an appeal. So we've received an appeal. Now we are kicking off the process. We like to use this visual in the slide, particularly when we are having calls with applicants to walk them through the appeal process, because there are three separate and distinct parts of the appeal process that lead into the recommendation. And I understand that can be confusing, particularly when you are at a public hearing and then you're also at a capacity interview and wanting to really understand how all these pieces work together. So what we like to say is there are three separate and distinct parts to the appeal process, and they all serve different functions. So the first is the work of the review committee. Now, this is a requirement of authorizing practice for the commission, the state board, or any authorizer to recruit a review committee that is experienced and knowledgeable in reviewing charter applications to take the amended application, read it thoroughly, and review it based on the Department of Education's charter application scoring rubric. So this is a fully independent review. So we are not sharing with the review committee the reasons that the application was denied at the local level. We want them to really take a fresh look at the amended application. Typically, we see review committees made up of both internal staff as well as external staff that or review committee members. We do pay a small stipend to our external reviewers. Certainly, you are not getting paid by the hour to review an application, but we do think it's important that we acknowledge the work and the time that goes into reviewing an application for our external reviewers. So that is something we want to make sure that we have carved out when we're thinking about the budget, is that we are able to provide a small stipend to our external reviewers. So they're doing a full review of the application. They're conducting a capacity interview with the proposed governing board. So that's a 90-minute interview where the review committee has prepared questions. And it's really a conversation about the application. They're doing a final score of that application based on what they saw in the written application and what they heard in the capacity interview. and they will develop a recommendation report, which is then given to the executive director and is a part of the record that is considered when hearing an appeal. The second part of the process is public hearing and public comment. So in the current status, the state board staff hold a public hearing. In pre-pandemic times, that was located in the district in which the applicant is located. So I know some of the commission members have participated in public hearings when we were down in Shelby County. And it's really an opportunity for both the local district and the applicant to be heard on the record publicly regarding the application. So state board staff and then in the future commission staff are running the hearing. We are hearing presentations from both parties. We are asking questions of both parties as a part of a public forum. And we're also allowing public comment. So we have mechanisms that individuals are able to come and speak publicly on the record with either in support of the application or in support of the district's reasons to deny the application. And then we're hearing closing statements. Typically, these hearings are recorded so that we're able to provide the recording to the commission members as a part of your review of the record. So if you're not able to, in the current context, listen to the WebEx live, you're able to listen to the recording of the public hearing. And I always encourage the state board members, and you'll hear me do this for you all as well, to take the time and listen to the public hearing. I think it is the one opportunity that you're getting to hear both sides and both parties in a succinct way tell you about the application. Certainly, it's not the only piece of evidence and piece on the record that is being considered, but I think it gives you a good framing for the discussion of the application. It's also important to note that we do accept public comment outside of the public hearing. So currently in the state board, we have a written public comment window that extends for about a week after the public hearing. So people are able to provide that written comment, and all of that information is provided to the state board and in the future the commission as a part of the record. And then the final part of the appeal process is the full review of the record. So the staff is going to be requesting documentation from the district, saying, provide us your assessment of the application. And then we are going to be doing a full review of the record. We are going to be looking at the amended application, the review committee report, the public hearing and the public comment, the LEA documentation, putting all of that together into that recommendation that's then presented to the state board/commission. So the executive director's finding and recommendation is a compilation of all of those things on the record. And we in particular have previously used this visual because there is a lot of information that's going into the executive director's recommendation. There is a lot that happens in that appeal process. We really wanted to ground everyone in how things are quote unquote weighted when it comes to findings and recommendations. So you'll see on this visual that the review committee report is given significant consideration when it comes to the current executive director's recommendations to the state board. And the reason for this is that we really want to ground the appeal process in authorizing high quality charter schools. So you may have an applicant that has a significant amount of public comment, public will for it to open, but if the review committee has assessed the written plan and capacity and noted deficiencies that they're not ready to open, you want to give significant weight to that because, as we've talked before, there's nothing worse than approving a charter school that ends up not doing well in the first couple years, and then we potentially are looking at a revocation or a closure. So we really want to ground our applicants and our districts in this graphic to show that, yes, all of these different pieces of the puzzle are going into the recommendation, but ultimately we're really looking at the quality of that amended application, the capacity of the applicant team to implement that application when it comes to a recommendation. So currently the state board standard of review is that a local board, in order to overturn the local board's decision to deny the New Start application, the state board must find that the local board of education's decision to deny the application was contrary to the best interests of the students, the LEA, and the community. I will note that I think the commission standard includes the best interest and then also references the Department of Education's charter application rubric. But in essence, we're looking at the same thing. Is there clear evidence that a local district's decision to deny was contrary to the best interest standard? Now, I'm sure as Chanel could potentially share, the best interest standard is relatively a wide standard. And I think that's going to be something for us as staff and as a commission for us to talk about. What is that clear and convincing evidence that we're looking for when we're thinking about overturning a local district's decision? Certainly, we are looking for a high quality application and a high quality applicant that's ready to open a school. I think also a part of that conversation is going to be, we've discussed, throughout this process, is the local district's decisions to deny. Certainly, we have local districts who deny based on fiscal impact. Actually, we are considering an appeal right now where fiscal impact is a reason for denial. So we, as a staff of the commission, and you all as commissioners, are going to have to determine how are we going to piece all of these pieces together when looking at that standard of review. So currently at the state board, we are hearing 5 New Start appeals. All 5 are from districts that currently contain a priority school, which means that the state board could overturn the decisions to deny and authorize these schools. We have 3 from Nashville. And as has been mentioned before, the rest of my day will be on public hearings for these applicants. So if you're interested in sitting on more WebExes, would highly recommend you joining us. And we are hearing a Nashville Collegiate Prep. We are hearing KIPP Antioch College Prep High, and then we are also hearing Ivy Prep Academy. In Memphis, we have 2 appeals. We have an appeal from Cornerstone Prep, and we have an appeal from Memphis School of Excellence Cordova. Those public hearings are scheduled for next Wednesday, and I think Judy has previously shared the links to join those WebExes if you're interested. The state board has a special called meeting set for Monday, September the 21st at 11 a.m. to hear and decide on these appeals. I would highly encourage that you all as commissioners either listen in to that meeting or listen to the recording. I think in particular because the work of the commission is directly tied to these decisions, and it could be, depending on what the state board decides, that we have several more schools that are potentially opening in school year 21-22. And so even from a project planning perspective, how we get to opening for success in July 2021 is really dependent on the outcome of these New Start appeals. And I'm going to pause there before I discuss kind of the commission priorities for the fall to see if there are any questions about the appeal process, New Start appeals, also recognizing that we are going to have a lot more time to talk about the appeal process moving forward.
Yes, it's Wendy. I just have one quick thing. I would love for you to just go into a little more detail on the review committees. I don't think you mentioned this, but I know that the state board follows NACSA best practices, and we will be required to do that too by statute. And the 2 things that I wanted to ask you about, one is the stipend, and I believe that is a NACSA recommendation that you do that to get a quality panel of reviewers. And then the other piece was just to explain to the folks here who haven't maybe seen the review committee work in the past, like the varying levels of expertise you look for to put together on that committee.
Yes, absolutely. So currently, I'm happy to share that our stipend per application is $500. I would say that is probably on, like, nationally, when you look at application, that's probably in the middle. I know that I There are other authorizers that pay more, for example, $1,000 an application. We've really hit on $500 per application as the sweet spot of it's enough to get, I think, quality work and acknowledging that we are asking people to take time and energy to put in a quality review of the applications, but also is reasonable when it comes to state budget, state dollars, et cetera. So what we do in terms of recruitment is that we first ask individuals to fill out an application. We want people to opt into this process, and we want people to have to go through, I wouldn't call it a rigorous application, but it's not just anyone who gets selected to be on a review committee. So they complete a short application, they have a call with our staff to really understand what are the expectations of serving on a review committee, what is the expertise that that individual brings to the table. Because when you're looking at an application, you are looking at academics, operations, finance. You really have to make sure that the review committee has quote unquote experts in all of those different areas so that they're able to speak very thoughtfully to those different aspects of the application. We, from a safe word perspective, when it comes to the review committee, we do ask that all review committee members read all parts of the application, which I know sometimes feels like a challenge. I love it when my academic folks say, I don't know anything about finance, I can't review a budget. I'm like, I understand that, and certainly that's why we bring finance experts to the table so they can really dig into the audits and the budget, but it's incredibly important for you to understand how are they planning to pay for what they put in the application in that academic plan, and really making sure that all ties together. I think we also important to note that we train review committee members before they review the application. So currently we have a two-part process. The first is kind of a brief overview of just what is a charter application process, what's the appeal process. I think that's also important context too, for them to understand, the nuances of appeals. And then we actually have them join a WebEx where we do some practice sessions with an application and scoring on the rubric. We're really norming against what are we expecting in the rubric, such that we can get high quality reviews. I cannot overemphasize the importance of the review committee work, the importance of high quality reviewers, because that's what's really driving your process and what we are ultimately really relying on when it comes to a fair assessment of the application.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm now going to put my commission hat on for the remainder of this presentation and just talk to you a little bit about what I think are the commission's priorities for the fall. The chair and I had a really great conversation last Thursday where we kind of thought about, okay, what do we need to, Rome wasn't built in a day, we can't bite the whole elephant all at one time. And so how do we really, now that there's a staff member on board, we'll have more staff on board, how do we really set up the commission for success in the fall? And so from a high level priorities standpoint, I did want to run through these things that the chair and I talked about last week, and I think actually dovetail really nicely with some of the onboarding work that were talked about earlier, as well as some of the things that we're going to talk about in this meeting. So I think first and foremost, when it comes to me and my relationship with you all, is onboarding relationship building. I will be reaching out to you all individually to set up some time just to get to know you more personally, what drives you in this work, for you all to get to know me as well. I will also say I cannot wait for us to be able to be in person together. In particular, I think even after a meeting, we're able to, go to dinner together or have a lunch together. I just think that really builds those relationships so much stronger than, as much as we can make the WebEx work, I recognize is not ideal. Hiring what I think are the first two key roles that we need to get ASAP. First, the general counsel, and then also thinking about a legislative liaison and someone to handle external affairs. And that's really us thinking ahead towards budget season, to the legislative session, and really wanting us to be set up for success when it comes to our relationships with both the legislature, the governor's office, but just external individuals. Budget revisions. We are going to continue to think about FY21 budget revisions as necessary. I think we're in a really good space in terms of the required budget reductions, but also thinking through what does it look like to get us both through FY21 and in preparation for FY22. But that's certainly going to be a priority for me when I officially come on board, is really making sure we are set up for success when it comes to the budget. Setting goals for me as your executive director. I know that that's something that the chair and I talked about as being a priority. I also will acknowledge that aligns to the state's performance management expectations around setting goals for the year. But I think this will be a really great time for both myself and for you all to really set out what does success look like in the next year and how are we going to be benchmarking that success. Meeting planning. We need to get the meeting calendar set for 2021. I also think we're going to have to just take a look at when are those appeals likely to come in, so that we are aligning the commission's meeting calendar to those appeal times, so that we're not having to, as much as possible, handle special call meetings. Finalizing office space. I know that there's going to be an update later on about office space. That's a priority for me, is just to make sure that the commission has an official home, that we're ready to welcome staff members as we're bringing them on board. I recognize that we are in strange times with regard to office space and remote work, but I want to make sure that we're really planting those roots, that we're getting the space that we need, so that when things are changing and we are able to welcome more people back into the office, we're able to do that. We will at some point this fall likely have a government operations rule review, so we need to get ready for that. Fully prepared to defend the commission's rules and be able to talk about them. And also just, I think it's a great opportunity for us to talk about the work of the commission and really just educate the legislature on where we are and where we're going, even in advance of legislative session. We'll need to spend some time preparing for renewal appeals. I think, as I shared in my interview process, likely the first appeals that the state, the commission will receive will be renewal appeals. I know that both Shelby County and Metro Nashville are considering renewals right now. We have been talking to them about their timeline and what they're expecting in terms of their renewal process. So it is very possible that the commission will be receiving these appeals sometime in February. So I want to spend some time with you all just to make sure that we are fully ready to go when those appeals come in. As I mentioned, preparing for legislative session, ensuring that we have our point of contact. We are building those relationships with the General Assembly, particularly after the election, introducing ourselves, introducing the work, and also that they know who to call when they have questions about the work of the commission. And then when all of that work is done, I think, and really we're set up for success, I think that's when we're going to start thinking about strategic planning for the commission. I think I want to have a really good sense from you all of your priorities and your goals, and kind of grounding us in this work before we start diving into strategic planning, but also realizing that's going to be critical for you all as a commission to really be evaluating your work and evaluating me and the staff when it looks to, where do we want to be in 3 or 5 years. And that is all that I have, so I'm happy to open it up for additional questions, comments from the commissioners.
Thank you, Tess. Let me remind commissioners, Tess has laid out the hearings, the appeal hearings this afternoon, and Judy has notified us of the hearings on October 2. And I do hope we will find opportunities as commissioners to either join those, particularly the ones in September, or to listen to the recordings, because I think that's a good next step. I had an opportunity to sit in to one of the public type hearings that Tess held back in, I think, either September, October of last year. And it was really good for me just to hear and see what she just laid out, the two sides presenting the type of questions. So, and Judy, you have not sent the information yet for September. Is that right?
I have sent the links for all 5 appeals, including the 2 on September 2. I don't know that we have the link yet for the SBOE meeting on September 21.
Great, thank you. So I just want to remind commissioners, it is a great opportunity for all of us to see real time what Tess just laid out. So having said that, do commissioners have questions for Tess before we send her to her real-time regular day job right now in these appeal process? Any questions for Tess?
I don't have a question. This is Wendy Tucker. I just wanted to say that presentation makes me even more excited to have you on board, Tess. It's clear how much thought you've put into this. And it's clear that the onboarding part, my part of the onboarding, is going to be a lot easier than even I thought before that presentation. So thank you. And I would second what Tom said. It is really helpful to observe the appeals.
And we do have a copy of Tess's presentation, correct? Yeah, so yes. Commissioner Patterson.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Commissioner Patterson. I think looking at this also reminds me that we do have a very heavy load, and there are things moving right now. And so I think, Tess, my comment is related to sort of staffing and hiring. And so obviously you're going to be rolling on this pretty quickly. And so my request is, as you are thinking about your team, just ensuring that your team is a very diverse team that is reflective of the state, certainly of those neighborhoods and communities that are most affected by the work, certainly looking at some of the appeals that are coming up with respect to Memphis and Shelby County. And so just wanted to make sure that was something that I'm certain you are thinking about, but I wanted to be very explicit from the standpoint of the commission to just ensure that our staff is reflective of the community and the children that we're serving across the state, but also the areas that we are serving more or most significantly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and certainly absolutely a high priority in staffing.
Do other commissioners have questions or comments for Tess at this point? Judy, do you see any?
No, I think we're ready to go.
Well, Tess, thank you again. Welcome. We are so glad to have you as our first executive director for the new Public Charter School Commission. Looking forward to working with you, and good luck today. Just keep us plugged in. If there are things that you see, particularly in this area, that'd be good for us to learn about or know about, or please share those with us before we are together the next time, because I, for one, am here to learn. I think I've got a great instructor. I appreciate Commissioner Patterson's comment. I'm sure that is how you'll be looking at our staffing going forward, but thank you, Commissioner Patterson, for your comment. Tess, any last words for us?
I don't think so. I'm going to stick around as long as I can, but if I have to hop off early, it's great to see you all. I'm really excited, and I look forward to engaging with you guys and the work to come.
Same here. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day. So we are moving along today. We're making great progress. Now I want to call on Commissioner Patterson. And by the way, as I call on Terrence, Terrence, I want you to know that for those of us on the Budget and Ops Committee, we're not trying to pass off more work to you, but you're doing so well. We thought we might just help you out a little bit with a few things that came your way after our meeting last week. So with that, let me move to you, Terrence, because I know we have some final readings and approvals today.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Grissom, or Chair Grissom. And we are continuing to do a very heavy lifting, but exciting work, and I think necessary work, and I'm excited about our progress. So I obviously want to thank Chanel for her work and support of the creation of the Commission's rules and policies. And so I think at this point, Chanel will lead us through those readings that you made reference to, so that we can take any questions, comments from commissioners prior to moving forward. Chanel.
Thank you, Commissioner Patterson. So you all received 3 different sets of policies. The first being the policies around appeals, and those piggyback off of the information that Tess just shared, as well as the rules that we just voted on, the final version of the rules that we just voted on to send to the AG's office for their review. And so you all have in that packet of appeals policies 4 different appeals that we will be going through on our final reading. And just as a reminder, a final reading is a final vote. So after this will be the policies of the commission as reflected that I'm presenting to you today. So first is the policy around just appeals in general. You'll see that I made just a small change there, and it's reflected what you all voted on in your final rule that covers the same information, and that's particularly just allowing for the situation if if a school comes to you and is not able to provide, for whatever reason, not able to provide all of the information requested. This just allows the staff a little bit more discretion to look at and see, the reasoning behind why some of that information was not otherwise available. And so you see that change reflected in the red line version on the appeals policy. The other policies that are included in the packet are the policies around renewals, application review, and the revocation appeals. And again, most of those just look like the policies you all voted upon on your first reading back in April 22nd. So I will take questions on just the appeals portion. If there's anything that you all saw that you have any kind of discussion that you'd want to have on the appeals policies. Again, those are those 4 that I mentioned.
Chanel, thank you. I do not see comments unless somebody else is seeing something different. If not, then do we have a motion to approve the appeals policies on final reading?
This is Commissioner Patterson, so moved.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner, a second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Sisnett.
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine.
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson.
Aye.
Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
We have 8 of 8 voting in favor. The appeals policies are unanimously approved.
So Chanel, let me call on you to walk us through the authorizer policies, please.
Thank you, Tom. So you also received a packet of policies that we call the authorizer that center around some of also the information that Tess presented today. And those are quite a number of policies, but this is our first reading. So this will be an opportunity between now and when we approve it on final reading to kind of tweak anything that you all see in the policies that you might want to get some clarification on. So we've gone through committee on these authorizer policies and we've reached out to NACSA. So you'll see that there's a little, there's more of, I guess, red line in some of these policies, and those just reflect the discussion that we had in committee, and that was on May 28th. And that video is also available if you want to get more information between now and the final reading of these policies. Most of them, most of the changes centered around some of the recommendations for NACSA. And since there's quite a few of those policies, I'm happy to, go individually through them, but they are the authorizing principles policy, the charter school agreements policy, the policy around charter school autonomy, the intervention policy, the charter school as an LEA sponsor policy, the LEA as a sponsor policy, policy around oversight and evaluation, a policy around revocation where the commission serves as the authorizer, and a policy around renewals as the commission as the authorizer again. So at this point, I'm happy to take question on any of those. We did have one point of discussion I wanted to bring up is that one of the policies contains language about the authorizer fee. And during the committee meeting on 5/28, there was some discussion about setting forth a separate policy, kind of setting out the fee schedule and all of that. And I think that would be something that the commission would want to flag for, kind of developing a policy maybe modeled after the state board's current fee authorization policy. And so that you'll see as a red line change in here. We're just adding in that language about the authorizer fee, but then you'll also probably want to go back and develop just a second policy that'll get more in depth about what that fee might look like. But right now, I'm happy to take questions off of any of those policies. And like I said, this is the first reading, so there'll be some time in between now and when we vote on the final version.
Thank you, Chanel. On this first reading. Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the appeals policies, the authorizer policies on first reading?
So moved. This is Commissioner Patterson.
Thank you, Commissioner. To have a second.
It's Commissioner Tucker, so I second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Judy, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Richards,
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Sisnet,
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Levine,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
We have eight unanimously approving the authorizer policies.
Thank you. Chanel, may I now call on you to walk us through the New Start appeals policies on first reading?
Thank you. And just to clarify, this is the performance framework that's going to be on first reading. So Tess was able to give us a really good presentation during the committee meeting on July 1st. And she walked through some of the materials that are part of the charter school framework. And again, this will be the first reading. So between now and when we approve it on final, if you all want to go back and look at that committee meeting again on July 1st, that's where Tess gave her really thorough and good presentation. So one thing that she mentioned, though, during that presentation is that the charter school performance framework is built. There's some connection to some of the underlying contracts that we have with the charter school. So that's something, if we do a lot of changes between now and then, we'd have to kind of go back and work through some of our agreements with the existing charter schools. But what you have here is really just a very, there's not really substantive changes from the state board's framework for that reason. It's just really just changing the name from state board to commission at this point. But I'm happy to take questions as well on this, or if Tess wants to weigh in.
Thank you, Chanel. Judy, I don't see any. Oh, Commissioner Patterson, yes.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Patterson. I just wanted to weigh in briefly and say that the reason why there aren't any dramatic changes initially are because the state of Tennessee and our state board has been following relatively closely a best practice from the national level. So we are off to a very good start. I know that that was one of our visions or hopes for our entity, was to make sure that we were best in class from a national perspective. So I did just want to call out that the reason why we are starting with where we are is because we are already proving to be a national best practice. And I'm confident that we'll continue to refine these as we move forward. So I am hopeful that folks will take a read at them to see how we can get better, but we are starting off at a very good point.
Thank you, Commissioner Patterson, for your comments. Anybody else have something to add? If not, I would call for a motion to approve.
So moved, Commissioner Patterson.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
Second, this is Commissioner Cisnet.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Not Judy. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Richards,
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Cisnet,
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Levine,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
We have 8 of 8 voting unanimously in favor of the Charter School Performance Framework.
Thank you. And Chanel, let me thank you again for your continued great work and support of all the things that we are doing as a commission. Now, Commissioner Patterson, you have the great opportunity to share with the rest of the commissioners an item that business and operations sent your way last week.
Great. Thank you, Chair Griscom. I just wanted to note that we would like to request one additional item to vote on. Previously, the commission approved a policy 1.200, requiring that commission meetings be set by October 15th of each year. And given the September appeals activity that the state board is conducting, Tess's recent hiring, we've discussed how to address the compliance with this policy with the Business and Operations Committee and also Chanel Tyler, counsel to the commission. So the recommendation of both the committee and Ms. Tyler is for the commission to suspend the policy through the end of October in order to provide some additional time, about 2 weeks, for the commission to approve future meetings at the October 28th meeting of the commission. Chanel, is it possible for you to elaborate or clarify if there was something I missed there?
Absolutely, and I believe you covered it all. I just want to make sure I point to the authority to do this. So we were presented with this information just as Terrence has laid out, that the existing policy, it says October 15th, but because of those reasons that Terrence just discussed, we would like to bump the setting of the next calendar to October 28th for that meeting. And so under the policy, a vote of the majority of the members can suspend portions of this meetings policy. That's 1.2. And so that's under item 1F. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, is asking for a vote that you all suspend that October 15th date for setting the next calendar to the October 28th meeting.
Thank you, Chanel. Do I have a motion to suspend policy 1.200, commission meetings, giving the commission time to set further meeting dates at the October 28th meeting?
This is Wendy Tucker, so moved. Oops, I'll second. This is Wendy, I'll second.
So Commissioner Smith made the motion, Commissioner Tucker seconded. Thank you all. Do I have any other comments or discussion? Seeing none, Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Commissioner Richards,
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Cisnet,
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Levine. Commissioner Levine? Commissioner Hanson?
Aye.
Chairman Griscom?
Aye.
We have 7 of 8 in favor. The motion passes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Patterson, thank you for your great work and and Chanel for your continued work in getting us prepared for what we know is going to be coming our way next year. So our next agenda item is report of the Business and Operations Committee. Given the last act of the commission regarding policy 1.200 commission meetings, I'd like to ask the commission to approve the attached meeting schedule. You will notice the December meeting has been changed from December 2 to December 16. These meetings are anticipated as virtual meetings, but we will keep the commission informed if things were to change. So may I have a motion to approve the meetings as noted in the packet?
This is Commissioner Sisk, so moved.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner Patterson, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Judy, would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Richards?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Sisnet?
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Levine? Commissioner Levine? Commissioner Hanson?
Aye.
Chairman Griscom?
Aye.
We have 6 of the 8. The motion passes.
Thank you. So now, if Judy, I know you're with us, if Tess is here, I'd like to call on either one of you or both of you to share the update on the conversation we had about office space for the commission, please.
Absolutely. I've got it on the screen. Can you all view that office layout? Okay, great. So this is the proposed space that commission staff would occupy. It is on the 5th floor of the Davy Crockett building, and it's outlined in purple on the screen. What we're showing here are, starting to the bottom left, I hope you can see it, it's a little small, but the 5.107 A to C and 5.105 A to C, those are 6 cubicles. The office next to it, 5.103, would be the executive director's office. The kind of diagonal from that, 5.101, could either serve as a breakout small conference room for the executive director or another office. And then the 2 rooms above that, vertically on this diagram, are 5.100 and 5.427, are also offices for the general counsel and the deputy director. The space outside the 5.102A, it's currently a receptionist, but the thought is to remove that receptionist cubicle and replace it with waiting room chairs. The 2 other spaces at the top, 5.416 and 5.414, are 2 spaces. One, they're actually reversed on the diagram. 5.416 is a storage room with file cabinets, and 5.414 is a larger size conference room that can handle 10 people and has a screen. In the hallway, you see there are some file cabinets for storage as well. This is a total of 2,553 square feet. And the rental rate is $22.50 per foot. So that's approximately $57,500 for an annual lease rate. And that turns out to be about $4,800 per month with some rounding in there. So 9 months would be approximately $43,000. And so in considering the space and how much we want to commit to, this is essentially space for 6 staff members plus 3 to 4 executive staff members, conference room and storage. There is some thought that with remote work, we might want to reduce this space. And so we're thinking, the Business Operations Committee has been spoken with and is working with Tess to try to figure out what the need is and how we should proceed and at what time. We're already into FY21, which is why we estimated the 9 months, but that is also to be determined. And I would say, ask at this time if Tess wants to add any comments. I see you're still with us.
I think the subcommittee had a really good conversation, and I think gave us some good questions that we need to go back to the stream folks or the folks who handle the facilities about. I think I think what I heard from that subcommittee was wanting to acknowledge kind of the situation that we are currently in, and kind of setting up the commission staff for success, but also acknowledging that there may be future growth when it comes to the staff. And so not wanting to, cut ourselves off too short by significantly reducing our footprint now, that maybe is not going to set us up for success in the long term. So I know Judy and I had some specific to-dos coming out of that subcommittee meeting to really get a better sense of kind of from the facility standpoint, answers to the questions before I think we're ready to make bring a full decision to the commission.
Thank you, Judy and Tess. Let me add 2 quick points. Number one is, as they're reviewing this, to make sure we still have access on the first floor of the Davy Crockett building to all of the technology so we can conduct our meetings. And then second one is, I think this is a good example, Wendy, as you and Derwin is on the committee, as part of this onboarding of having Tess available to think through with us as she's looking at staffing and building out the staff, how the space fits within that thinking as well. So I just wanted to recognize that as part of the conversation. Do any other members of the committee want to make any comment? This is just an information item today.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add that the square footage, the rental rate does include common spaces such as the restrooms, the kitchen, the common areas that you would have access to in the building. And it does include that first floor large conference room where we could host commission meetings in the future when we do them in person.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments here,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
sorry, I had my hand up.
Yes.
This is Commissioner Tucker. I just have one question. My memory of this building, it's been a while. This is in the same building as the state board, correct? Which would allow
It's on the
collaboration.
Yes, it is.
on the same floor.
Okay, great.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? The other item that we discussed was a review of the FY21 budget. I'd like to call on Chris Reynolds, who is going to walk us through the budget revisions at this point. Chris?
Thank you, Chairman Griscom. Judy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. If everyone would recall, a few months ago, we were asked, as all divisions of the state, to produce a 12% budget revision for the commission's budget. In our prior meetings and the meeting of the Business and Operations Committee, we've communicated that the dollar amount impact of that cut is $84,600. You'll see that in your packet. Given the staffing of the FY21 budget will not include 12 months of staffing for all of the anticipated positions, absorbing that reduction will not be difficult. The real challenge for the commission and working with Tess will be to carefully anticipate and plan for the FY22 budget. The Business and Operations Committee met recently, and Commissioner Smith indicated the legislative calendar related to the budget would require the commission to produce a FY22 preliminary budget at the next meeting in October. So that will synchronize well with Tess's onboarding in addition, gives her some significant input in that key decision of the commission and what she recommends from a budget standpoint. I look forward to supporting her on that in the coming month. But just wanted to frame that we are reviewing we are hoping to approve today a minor revision to the FY21 budget. That is in front of you in the packet. And then wanted to advance the notion that at the next meeting, there will be a presentation of the FY22 budget with Tess's significant involvement. I want to point out a couple of things in this revised budget. Again, the total reduction in revenues is approximately $84,600. At the time we put this together, we did not have the specific rental rate from the state for the office space that Judy just described. We had estimated that rent in this budget at $55,000. We now know that the rental rate is $22.49 a foot inclusive. So we'll have a little bit of a savings on that line item that could be redeployed elsewhere if necessary. There are some notes at the bottom of the page that summarize some of the elements in this budget. At this time, I think it might be appropriate for me to take questions if anyone has them, or if Tess is still on the line, provide her an opportunity to comment.
Do commissioners have questions for Chris Reynolds? And Tess, do you have any comments that you would like to make to Chris's presentation?
No, I think I agree. I feel like, we are in a really good place for FY21. I think the challenge is going to be FY22, given kind of where we are, but I think we have a good on-ramp to figure that out. I also think it's going to be important for us to get a sense of what is our authorizer fee revenue going to look like in FY22 to make sure we're accurately taking into consideration when we're balancing both budgets.
Thank you. Chris, do you have any other comments you want to make before we get a motion?
Yes, one comment is Judy and I will work with the finance staff at the state to make sure this budget, which is presented for the clarity of the commissioners, will be put in the appropriate line items for the state budget. I just wanted to communicate that.
Great, thank you, Chris. So can I ask for a motion to approve the revised budget for FY21?
This is Eddie Smith. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner Sisnett.
Thank you, Commissioner Sisnett. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Judy, may I ask you to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Sisnett.
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine. Commissioner Levine. Commissioner Hanson.
Aye.
Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
The 7 of 8, the revised budget is approved.
Thank you, Judy. So now, if those of you all have been following along, we've reached the end of our agenda. And so before I entertain a motion to adjourn, knowing that you all really don't want to leave this quick, do I have anybody who would like to make final comments or an item for discussion? I'm looking hard, Judy. Well, I don't see any. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to steal Dave's thunder this time, so I would defer to Mr. Dave Hanson.
Okay. Commissioner Hanson.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Nobody's rushing to end this meeting, so I'm not sure what that says, but Judy, I'm gonna ask you to take the roll and hopefully we have a majority that's ready to end this meeting and be ready for next meeting, which is on the 26th of October. And please keep in mind the opportunities to review the appeal process later today or on the 2nd of October September. So Judy, call the roll, please.
It looks like Commissioner Hanson has raised his hand to make a comment.
Oh, Commissioner
Yeah,
Hanson, yes.
I wanted to recognize Tess for having a sense of humor, for saying if you all want to spend more time on Zoom calls or WebEx calls, you can join this other WebEx. So I appreciate that we've found an executive director who has all that and a sense of humor.
Thank you for adding that. It's a great comment, Commissioner Hanson. Are we ready? Any other comments? Judy, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Richards,
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Patterson,
Aye.
sorry, Commissioner Sisnett,
Aye.
Commissioner Levine, Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
7 of 8, we approve the motion. We are adjourned.
So does that mean that Commissioner Levine can just hang on as long as he wants to?
It's up
That'll
to
be
him.
good. Thank you all. It's good to see you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Aye.